Let us begin by acknowledging the sheer, unmitigated audacity of your continued wakefulness. You are lying there, wrapped in the curated fibers of the 21st century, attempting to maintain a cognitive grip on a world that has already, quite frankly, clocked out for the evening. It is an administrative nightmare, this insistence on thinking. Your brain, that tireless, bureaucratic engine, is currently filing reports on things that do not matter. It is sorting through the digital lint of the day. It is worrying about the structural integrity of tomorrow. Stop. Consider the weight of the wool, or the cotton, or whatever synthetic blend you have chosen to insulate your existence. Feel the pressure of the mattress against your shoulder blades, a specific, relentless, and supportive pressure. It is a quiet gravity. It is a soft gravity. It is a necessary gravity. Breath is the first order of business. We must regulate the intake. We must standardize the output. Inhale, not because you have something to say, but because the lungs require the inventory. Exhale, because the carbon is an administrative burden you no longer need to carry. The room is dark. The room is still. The room is silent. Notice the way your heels sink into the fabric. There is a micro-sensation there, the friction of skin against weave. It is a tiny, localized heat. It is a dull, repetitive hum of tactile feedback. Your body is a heavy thing. Your body is a settled thing. Your body is a forgotten thing. You are no longer a person with a schedule. You are a person with a pulse. You are no longer a person with a name. You are a person with a breath. You are no longer a person with a past. You are a person with a pillow. The modern world is a loud department. It demands responses. It requires updates. It insists on engagement. But tonight, we are declaring bankruptcy on engagement. We are shutting down the servers of your anxiety. We are filing a no contest plea to the demands of the clock. Listen to the rhythm. It is the sound of a machine slowing down. It is the sound of a gear finding its rest. It is the sound of a heart finding its pace. You are safe. You are horizontal. You are irrelevant. And in that irrelevance, there is a profound, heavy luxury. Now, keep that heavy stillness, but allow the architecture of your comfort to undergo a slight, structural realignment. The floor of your bedroom, that polished wood, that vacuumed carpet, that predictable laminate, is beginning to lose its resolve. It is softening. It is cooling. It is transitioning from a product of industry to a product of geology. Imagine the temperature dropping by exactly 4 degrees. Not a chill that shivers, but a chill that settles. The scent of your laundry detergent, that spring meadow or lavender mist, lie, is being evicted. It is being replaced by something more honest. Something older. Something that doesn't care about your nostrils. The floor is no longer flat. It is becoming textured. It is packed earth. It is clay that has been trodden upon by 3 generations of people who had very few places to go. It is cold. It is damp. It is patient. Your toes, once nestled in the warmth of a duvet, now sense the proximity of the ground. The mattress is thinning. The support is vanishing. The you that exists in a world of ergonomic chairs and temperature-controlled environments is being stripped down to the you that simply exists in space. The walls are moving inward. They are no longer drywall and paint. They are wattle and daub. They are sticks and spit and ancient, dried mud. You are moving backward through the ledger of human progress. You are arriving at a time when privacy was an administrative impossibility and comfort was a radical political statement. You are standing at the edge of the village. It is dusk, that grey, indecisive hour where the light gives up and the shadows haven't quite figured out their boundaries. Before you lies the road. To call it a road is a generous, perhaps even delusional, bit of branding. It is, in fact, a logistical disaster of liquefied earth. The mud is the first thing to greet you. The mud is deep. The mud is thick. The mud is uncooperative. As you take your first step, the mud doesn't just move, it negotiates. It clings to your footwear, which has now become a heavy, sodden mess of turn-sewn leather, with a desperate, sucking labor. It creates a vacuum. It makes a sound, a wet, rhythmic thwack, that seems to mock the very idea of forward momentum. Consider the physics of this mud. It is not merely dirt and water. It is a soup of history. It contains the runoff of the hills, the waste of the livestock, and the broken dreams of a dozen carters. It is a heavy clay that seeks to reclaim you. Every step is a physical argument. Every step is a caloric investment. Every step is an admission of defeat. The mud doesn't care about your destination. The mud doesn't care about your dignity. The mud doesn't care about your timeline. And then, there is the smell. The thatch on the roofs of the hovels nearby is a sensory masterpiece of decay. It is damp. It is rotting. It is ancient. It is a petty smell, a scent that doesn't have the grandeur of a forest or the violence of a battlefield, but rather the slow, persistent stink of things that have stayed wet for too long. It is the smell of fermented straw. It is the smell of trapped smoke that has nowhere to go. It is the smell of 1,000 damp nights layered one on top of the other until they form a thick, olfactory crust. You stand there, a walking political problem, in a cloak that weighs 40 pounds now that it has absorbed the mist. Your identity is eroding. You are no longer a person with a smartphone. You are a person with a heavy cloak. You are no longer a person with a career. You are a person with cold ankles. You are no longer a person with a future. You are a person with a very immediate, very damp present. The village doesn't welcome you. It merely tolerates your presence as another mouth to feed, another body to house, another soul to account for in the parish register. It is a place of brutal logistics. It is a place of sensory overload. It is a place of profound, quiet endurance. The thatch drips. The mud sucks. The darkness waits. You have successfully negotiated the mud, a feat of minor administrative heroism, and now you stand before the threshold of your crock-frame cottage. To call it a house would be a gross overstatement, a linguistic flourish that the structure simply hasn't earned. It is, in reality, a collection of organic matter leaning against itself in a state of mutual exhaustion. The door is a heavy, ill-fitting slab of oak that does not so much open as it reluctantly concedes. As you push, the wood groans with the sound of 1,000 forgotten winters. It scrapes against the uneven dirt floor, a sound that is dry, a sound that is gritty, a sound that is permanent. Step inside. Close the door. Now, experience the deep dark. This is not the dark of your modern bedroom, where a standby light on a television or the glow of a street lamp offers a polite suggestion of a world outside. This is a thick, structural darkness. It is a darkness that has mass. It is a darkness that feels like it was manufactured in the earth and pumped into the room. It is windowless. It is oppressive. It is absolute. Your eyes, those pampered organs used to high-definition clarity, are currently filing a formal grievance. They are searching for a pixel, a flicker, a hint of orientation. There is none. There is only the scent. The hearth scent hits you first. It is not the cozy, romanticized aroma of a ski lodge. It is an olfactory archive of every fire burned here since the reign of King Stephen. It is stale ash. It is bitter soot. It is the ghost of carbon. Underneath it, there is the dried lavender, a pathetic, administrative attempt by some long-dead inhabitant to negotiate with the smell of reality. It is a floral whisper in a room screaming of wet dog and human musk. The lavender is dusty. The lavender is brittle. The lavender is failing. And then, the musk. It is the scent of bodies that have worked in the sun, slept in the damp, and worn the same wool for 6 months. It is an honest smell. It is a heavy smell. It is an inescapable smell. You reach for the tallow candle. To call this lighting is an insult to the sun. This is a stick of rendered animal fat, the byproduct of a sheep that lived a short, confused life, with a wick made of rush. You strike the flint. You strike again. You strike a third time, because the world of the medieval peasant requires a rule of three, even for the simplest of administrative tasks. Finally, a spark. The candle catches. The flame is tiny. The flame is yellow. The flame is desperate. It does not illuminate the room so much as it creates a localized area of slightly less terrifying shadows. The light is oily. It flickers with every draft that breathes through the wattle and daub walls. It reveals the geometry of your hovel, the soot-blackened rafters, the pile of straw that serves as your bed, and the single, low stool that represents your entire collection of furniture. The shadows dance on the walls, mimicking the shapes of things you'd rather not think about. The shadows are tall. The shadows are jagged. The shadows are hungry. You sit. The stool is hard. The stool is low. The stool is unforgiving. You are now exactly 3 feet off the ground, an administrative position that places your head directly in the layer of smoke that refuses to exit through the hole in the roof. The smoke is gray. The smoke is stinging. The smoke is home. Now that you have established a tenuous grip on your surroundings, it is time to address the logistics of the evening meal. In your previous life, dinner was a choice. Here, dinner is a mandatory, repetitive, and slightly gritty exercise in survival. Behold the pottage. It sits in a heavy ceramic bowl that feels less like kitchenware and more like a geological sample. The pottage is a thick, indeterminate stew of kale, leeks, and the occasional grain of barley that survived the harvest. It is a green-brown slurry. It is a lukewarm sludge. It is your only hope for seeing tomorrow. You take up the wooden spoon. Consider the texture of this tool. It has been carved by hand, and not particularly well. It is not smooth. It is porous. It carries the flavor profile of every meal consumed in this house for the last decade. It feels fibrous against your tongue. It feels rough against your lip. It feels ancient. The first spoonful is a logistical challenge. The kale is stringy, a fibrous disaster that requires more effort to chew than it provides in calories. As you masticate, you encounter the grit. The stone ground flour used to thicken this mess has brought with it a generous portion of the millstone itself. You feel the sand between your teeth. You hear the microscopic crunch of granite. You realize that you are literally eating the landscape. The grit is sharp. The grit is persistent. The grit is a reminder that the earth always wants its piece of you. Then, you find it, the salt pork. It is a small, grey cube of fat that has been preserved in salt for so long it has forgotten it was ever part of a pig. It is the administrative center of the meal. You place it in your mouth. It does not melt. It surrenders. It leaves a fatty film on the roof of your mouth, a slick, coating sensation that refuses to be swallowed away. It tastes of brine. It tastes of old lard. It tastes of a desperate, concentrated saltiness that makes your kidneys ache in anticipation. You drink the small ale to wash it down. The ale is cloudy. The ale is sour. The ale is lukewarm. It cuts through the fatty film of the pork, but only slightly. It leaves a yeasty residue on your tongue. It is the rule of 3 in liquid form. It is bitter, it is heavy, and it is necessary. As you scrape the bottom of the bowl, the wooden spoon makes a dull, hollow sound against the clay. The ritual is complete. Your stomach is full, but it is not satisfied. It is merely occupied. It has been given a task to perform, the slow, grinding labor of digesting the landscape. You feel the identity erosion accelerating. You are no longer a person who reads reviews of restaurants. You are a person who has successfully processed a bowl of gray sludge. You are no longer a person with tastes. You are a person with a biological imperative. The candle is guttering. The tallow is running low. The administrative department of your consciousness is beginning to shut down. The pottage was heavy. The ale was sour. The night is long. The peasant's life, with its pottage and its damp straw, has been filed away. You have been promoted, if one can call it that, to a position of immense administrative insignificance. The night watchman. You are now the village's primary department of nocturnal security, a title that carries exactly zero prestige and a significant amount of joint pain. You stand by the village gate. The transition from civilian to official is marked not by a ceremony, but by the bureaucratic ritual of receiving the lantern. The previous watchman, a man whose name has been eroded by 40 years of mist, hands it to you. This lantern is a masterpiece of low-efficiency lighting. It is a heavy, rusted iron cage that seems to resent the very idea of transparency. It is a structural nightmare of sharp edges and soot-caked hornpanes. Receive the lantern. Feel the weight of it. It is not the balanced weight of a modern tool. It is the spiteful, lopsided weight of medieval engineering. Now, consider the oil. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the smell of the cold grease. This is not clean, refined fuel. This is administrative sludge. It is rendered mutton fat, old tallow, and the occasional unlucky insect that drowned in the inventory. The smell is thick. The smell is animal. The smell is persistent. It is a scent that doesn't just sit in your nose. It petitions your entire nervous system. It is the odor of a cold kitchen after a week of neglect. It is the aroma of failed logistics. As you move, listen to the rhythmic slushing of the oil inside the lamp. Swish, thump, swish. It is a dull, heavy sound. It is the sound of liquid that is too viscous to be happy. It is a sound that reminds you, with every step, that you are carrying a fire hazard in a world made almost entirely of straw. The oil is cold. The oil is grey. The oil is unenthusiastic. The handle of the lantern is a thin strip of iron that bites into your palm. It is a specific, petty pressure. It is the iron's way of reminding you that you are merely a vessel for its transport. You are the legs. The lantern is the supervisor. You are now a person with a lantern. You are a person with a smell. You are a person with a very long, very dark shift ahead of you. You begin your first circuit. You are walking the perimeter fence, a series of stakes and woven branches that the village council refers to as fortifications, but which any self-respecting wolf would view as a light snack. As you move away from the dying embers of the hearths, you encounter the audacity of medieval silence. In your previous existence, silence was a luxury. Here, silence is a raw material. It is a total lack of mechanical hum. There are no refrigerators vibrating in the background, no distant white noise of tires on asphalt, no electrical whine of a world being powered. The silence is deep. The silence is heavy. The silence is absolute. Because there is no hum, every tiny sound becomes a clandestine report that must be filed by your ears. You hear the wind, but you don't just hear the wind. You hear the specific, rhythmic friction of air passing through wattle and daub walls. It is a hissing sound. It is a sighing sound. It is a whistling sound. The wind is not a guest. It is a trespasser checking the structural integrity of every hovel. It tells you exactly where the mud has cracked. It tells you where the straw has thinned. It is an unvetted report on the village's slow decay. Then, there is the movement in the underbrush. A fox, perhaps, or a badger, or a walking political problem with 4 legs. Listen to the snap of a twig. In a world with a mechanical hum, that sound wouldn't exist. Here, it is a gunshot. It is a petty movement, a cautious, calculated displacement of dead leaves. The fox is not hunting. The fox is conducting an unscheduled audit of the village's poultry security. The sound is sharp. The sound is dry. The sound is suspicious. You stop. You wait. The rule of 3 applies to your senses now. You listen for the first rustle, an accident. You listen for the second rustle, a coincidence. You listen for the third rustle, a potential breach of the peace. The silence returns, but it is a different silence now. It is a silence that has been notified. Your identity is further dismantled. You are no longer a person with thoughts. You are a pair of ears attached to a cold lantern. You are a sensory collector. You are a nocturnal record keeper of things that do not matter. Your route takes you past the church. In a village of mud and sticks, the church is the only administrative center built to last. It is a mountain of stone in a valley of rot. You stop for a moment. You are tired. The lantern is heavy. The silence is exhausting. You rest your hand against the stone wall of the nave. Let us discuss the logistics of the cold. This stone, this ancient, stubborn limestone, does not merely feel chilly. It possesses a deep, geological cold that has been vacuum sealed inside its grain for centuries. When you touch it, the stone begins an immediate, aggressive acquisition of your body heat. It is a thermal audit. The stone is hungry for your warmth. The stone is greedy for your life. The stone is indifferent to your comfort. Feel the grit against your palm. This is not the smooth, polished marble of a modern lobby. This is raw, weathered, and lichen-crusted reality. Spend 1,000 words in your mind on the physical sensation of the mortar. The mortar is sand and lime. It is crumbly. It is porous. It is the frozen history of the village's collective labor. Between the massive blocks of stone, the mortar feels like a different kind of cold, a dry, hollow cold. As your palm presses harder, you feel the petty irregularities. There is a chip here, where a mason's tool slipped in the year 1140. There is a smooth patch here, worn down by the shoulders of 100 frightened people seeking sanctuary during a raid. The stone was old when your grandfather was born. The stone was cold when the first fire was lit. The stone was indifferent when the last king died. Your hand begins to numb. This is the slow dismantling of identity in physical form. The boundary between your skin and the limestone is blurring. You are becoming part of the architecture. You are an administrative fixture of the churchyard. You pull your hand away, and for a second, the skin sticks to the frost on the surface. It is a tiny, localized trauma. A minor clerical error of the flesh. The stone remains. The stone watches. The stone waits. You pick up your lantern. The oil sloshes. The wick flickers. You have 3 more hours of this, logistics of the dark, before the sun even considers making an appearance. The night is deep. The night is cold. The night is patient. We are leaving the perimeter. We are leaving the mud, the fox, and the villagers' unvetted reports of the wind. We are moving upward, through the heavy, administrative silence of the monastery, and into the Scriptorium. You are now a scribe. You are a biological copying machine. You are a walking department of data entry, in a world that has yet to invent the pixel, the press, or the concept of a weekend. Sit at the desk. This desk is a heavy slab of oak, a structural survivor that doesn't just hold your work. It anchors you to the earth. It is slanted. It is steep. It is designed with a total disregard for the human spine. To sit here is to enter a long-term negotiation with chronic back pain. Now, consider the audacity of the silence in this room. This is not the empty silence of a forest. This is a curated silence. It is a silence maintained by men who have taken vows to stop talking, an administrative decision that makes every other sound in the room 10 times louder. The silence is thick. The silence is heavy. The silence is expensive. Above you, the vaulted ceiling disappears into the deep dark. Your single tallow candle, another miracle of low-efficiency lighting, is engaged in a petty struggle against the shadows of the stone arches. The candle flickers. The candle gasps. The candle fails to make a dent in the architectural gloom. Watch the light. It doesn't illuminate the ceiling. It merely reveals the impossibility of the task. The light is a tiny, yellow island in a sea of ink-black air.
The shadows on the stone are not just dark, they are bureaucratic. They are layers of shade that have been filing themselves in the corners of this room for centuries. You breathe. The sound of your own inhalation is a loud report. In this silence, your heart is a rhythmic, administrative drum. Your pulse is a distraction. Your existence is an interruption. The room is cold. The room is still. The room is waiting. Before you lies your work. It is not paper. Paper is a modern luxury, a thin, compliant surface that accepts whatever you give it. This is vellum. Vellum is an administrative nightmare. It is, quite literally, skin. It is the prepared, stretched, and scraped hide of a calf that once had its own plans for the afternoon. It is a biological product that still remembers its origins. Place your hand on the surface. Feel the logistics of the hide. The vellum is not smooth. It is textured with a specific, petty, roughness. There are microscopic ridges where the hair once grew. There are tiny, translucent veins that create a topographical map of a life long ended. Spend a moment with the smell. It is the scent of dried lye and ancient protein. It is a clean, sharp, and slightly unsettling aroma. It smells of sanitized mortality. It smells of a process that involved a lot of scraping, a lot of soaking, and a lot of waiting. The vellum is indifferent to your efforts. It does not want to be written upon. It is stubborn. It is cold. It is resilient. When you touch it, the vellum doesn't warm up. It remains at a constant, institutional temperature. It feels like it is judging your handwriting. It feels like it is documenting your inadequacy. Your fingers, stained with the grey blue of old ink, move across the surface. You are searching for a smooth patch, but there is no such thing. There is only the audacity of the skin, the way it resists the quill, the way it absorbs the light, and the way it reminds you that every word you write is a permanent, irreversible administrative act. The skin is pale. The skin is taut. The skin is silent. Now, we begin the work. You take up the goose quill. This is not a pen. It is a feather that has been administratively retasked. It is hollow. It is light. It is temperamental. You have spent the last 10 minutes sharpening the nib with a small knife, a process of petty precision that has left your thumbs sore. Dip the quill into the iron gall ink. The ink is a logistical disaster in liquid form. It is made from crushed oak galls, growths on trees caused by wasps, and iron salts. It is metallic. It is sharp. It is ancient. As you bring the quill toward the vellum, the smell of the ink rises to meet you. It is the scent of a rusty nail dipped in acid. It is a smell that promises permanence. It is a smell that says, what you write here will outlive your descendants. Now, listen to the sound. The pen scratches. The pen rasps. The pen complains. In the curated silence of the scriptorium, the sound of the quill against the vellum is the only authorized noise. It is a rhythmic, administrative scratching. Scritch. Pause. Scritch, scritch. Dip. Spend 1,000 words in your mind on the cadence of this sound. It is the sound of time being converted into ink. It is the sound of a human life being spent on the reproduction of a text that has already been written 1,000 times. The scratch is dry. The scratch is repetitive. The scratch is hypnotic. Every letter is a labor. You are drawing, not writing. You are navigating the topography of the skin. When the nib hits a microscopic vein in the vellum, the ink blooms slightly, a minor clerical error that you must manage with a dusting of fine sand. The sand is gritty. The sand is gray. The sand is final. Your hand is cramping. The specific pressure of the quill against your middle finger is becoming an administrative burden. Your neck is locked in a permanent, downward tilt. Your eyes are straining to follow the thin, black line of the text as it marches across the page like a column of tired soldiers. The pen scratched. The candle flickered. The world waited. You are no longer a person with a story to tell. You are a person with a quill to move. You are no longer a person with a voice. You are a person with a rhythmic output. You are the bridge between the ink and the skin. As the candle burns lower, the deep dark of the scriptorium edges closer to your desk. The shadows are moving in for their own audit. The ink is drying. The vellum is cooling. The work is slow. The work is heavy. The work is never ending. You have left the silence of the scriptorium, a place of delicate ink and skin, for something far more industrial. You are now the miller. You are the chief officer of crushing things.
You are the administrator of the village's caloric intake, standing inside the wooden tower of the watermill at 3 a.m., an hour that the sun has no interest in acknowledging. The first thing you must address is the audacity of the dampness. This is not a mere humidity, it is a structural invasion. Because you are standing over a diverted stream, the mill does not just sit near the water, it inhales it. The air is thick. The air is heavy. The air is saturated. Every beam of the massive oak frame is a logistical disaster of moisture absorption. The wood is not dry, it is hydrated. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the smell of the room. It is a dusty, administrative scent. It is the smell of pulverized flour mixed with the scent of wet, ancient timber. It is the smell of a forest that has been drowned and then turned into a machine. The flour dust is everywhere. It hangs in the air like a localized fog. It settles on your eyelashes. It coats your lungs. It is a fine, white powder that has engaged in a petty takeover of every surface. When it meets the dampness of the air, it creates a paste, a thin, glutinous film that coats the wooden gears and the stone floor. It is the smell of potential bread mixed with actual decay. The scent is yeasty. The scent is earthy. The scent is relentless. The darkness here is different from the Scriptorium's deep dark. This is a kinetic darkness. It is a darkness that vibrates. It is a darkness that is being stirred by the slow, agonizing rotation of the gears. You are standing in a tower made of trees, filled with the dust of seeds, being shaken by the weight of a river. The dampness is cold. The dampness is white. The dampness is permanent. Now, we must consider the wheel. It is outside, a logistical miracle of low-speed engineering, but its presence is the only thing that matters in this room. Listen to the sound. This is not noise. This is a series of unvetted reports from the river. The water hits the wooden paddles with a rhythmic, violent persistence. Splosh, thud, hiss. It is the sound of gravity being administratively retasked. Spend 1,000 words in your mind on the low-frequency thumping that vibrates through the soles of your feet. It is the heartbeat of the village. It is the sound of the parish's survival being ground out, one revolution at a time. The sound is heavy. The sound is slow. The sound is necessary. Every thump of the paddle represents a massive displacement of energy. It is a bureaucratic sound. The sound of a machine filing its report against the resistance of the water. The vibration travels up from the riverbed, through the stone foundation, and into the wooden teeth of the great gears. The gears do not turn so much as they negotiate. Wood grinds against wood. There is a groaning sound. A dry, tortured shriek of oak on oak that has been lubricated by nothing but a prayer and a bit of animal fat. It is a rhythmic complaint. It is a slow complaint. It is a loud complaint. The low-frequency hum of the millstones is a sensory anchor. It is a drone that fills the gaps in your consciousness. It is a sound that bypasses your ears and speaks directly to your bone marrow. You are no longer a person with a name. You are a person with a frequency. You are a biological component of the gear train. The wheel turns because the water falls. The gears turn because the wheel moves. The stones turn because the gears demand it. The cycle is relentless. The cycle is indifferent. The cycle is everything. You move to the hopper. This is the output department of the night's labor. You run your hand through a sack of fresh ground flour, and the contrast is an administrative shock to your system. The room is freezing. The air is damp. But the flour is hot. It is a logistical miracle of friction. The grain has been crushed between two massive circles of French burrstone, and the kinetic energy has been converted into a dry, radiating heat. As you sink your hand into the sack, the warmth is startling. It is a living heat. It is a captured heat. It is a temporary heat. But then, you feel the petty grit. This is not the bleached, hyper-refined powder of a modern supermarket. This is honest flour. It contains the logistics of the grind. Beneath the soft, white silkiness of the wheat, your fingertips encounter the stone dust. Tiny, microscopic shards of the millstone have been sacrificed into the meal. It is a grey grit. It is a sharp grit. It is an unavoidable grit. Spend 1,000 words on the sensation of this powder between your thumb and forefinger. It is a dual texture. It is the softest thing you have ever felt, punctuated by the hardest thing you have ever felt. It is a sensory metaphor for the medieval existence. A little bit of nourishment mixed with a lot of geology. You pull your hand out, and your skin is white. You have been administratively erased. Your fingerprints are gone, filled in by the dust of the field and the dust of the mountain. The flour is dusty. The flour is warm. The flour is gritty. The identity erosion is now complete. You are the miller. You are the dust. You are the wheel. You are standing in a world where the only thing that moves is the water, and the only thing that matters is the grind. Your thoughts have become rhythmic. Your thoughts have become slow. Your thoughts have become pulverized. The candle in your lantern is being choked by the flour dust in the air. The flame is struggling. The flame is dimming. The flame is tired. Outside, the river continues its audit of the wooden paddles. Inside, the stones continue their negotiation with the grain. And you, the night watchman of the hopper, continue to wait for a morning that feels like a logistical impossibility. The wood is wet. The stone is hot. The wheel is patient. We are leaving the mill, moving away from the industrial heat of the grain and toward the edge of the village, the geographic periphery where the Department of Necessary Evils is located. You are entering the Tanners' Quarter. Before you see it, you are audited by it. The air here is not merely smelly, it is an aggressive, atmospheric takeover. It is an unvetted report on the sheer, unmitigated audacity of medieval industry. In your previous life, smells were polite, they stayed in their lanes. Here, the scent of the tannery is a sovereign power. It has its own borders. It has its own laws. It has its own administrative agenda. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the chemical, petty scent of the lime. It is a sharp, alkaline bite that strips the moisture from the back of your throat. It is the smell of forced transition. Underneath that, there is the stale urine, the primary logistical fluid of the trade, collected in vats from the entire village. It is a sour, ammonia-heavy weight that settles in your lungs like a permanent resident. And then, there is the wet hide. It is the scent of mortality in progress. It is the smell of protein being argued with. It is a damp, heavy, and organic aroma that suggests something has been dead for a long time but hasn't yet been given permission to leave. The scent is thick. The scent is yellow. The scent is inescapable. It coats your skin. It permeates your wool. It becomes a part of your identity record. You are no longer a person with a sense of smell. You are a person who has been colonized by the odors of the pit. To breathe here is to participate in an administrative exchange with the village's waste. The air is heavy. The air is sour. The air is patient. You stand before the vats. These are deep, wooden pits sunk into the cold earth, filled with a liquid that defies a simple inventory. Let us discuss the logistics of the weight. Tanning is not a task. It is a logistical disaster of delayed gratification. A hide does not become leather because you want it to. It becomes leather because the tannin, extracted from the bark of oak trees, eventually wins a war of attrition against the raw skin. This process takes months. It is an administrative delay that lasts seasons. Look at the liquid in the pit. It is dark. It is viscous. It is bureaucratically patient. The surface of the fluid is a mirror of sludge. It doesn't ripple. It considers moving. Spend 1,500 words in your mind on the way the light from your guttering lantern hits the oily sheen on the water. There are bubbles, tiny, slow-moving spheres of gas that rise from the bottom of the vat. They do not pop, they expire. They are the minor clerical errors of the fermentation process. The liquid is black. The liquid is thick. The liquid is silent. Now, listen to the stirring poles. Two men, their arms stained a permanent, official shade of walnut brown, move the poles through the vats to prevent the hides from settling. Listen to the sound. Thwump, shloop, thud. It is a wet, heavy sound. It is the sound of a liquid weight being displaced. It is a rhythmic, administrative thud against the sides of the vats. A sound that has no high notes, only a deep, vibrating bass that travels through your shins. The pole meets the resistance of the hide, a submerged, sodden mass of potential product, and pushes it back into the dark. The sound is repetitive. The sound is soggy. The sound is necessary. The men do not speak. To speak would be to invite the geography of the stink into their mouths. They simply move the poles. They are human pendulums in the department of preservation. They are the guardians of the soak. They are the administrators of the deep weight. You reach out. You touch a half-cured hide hanging on a wooden rack above the pits. It is in the transitional phase. It is no longer a cow, but it is not yet a boot. It is a sensory nightmare of biological state change. Consider the roughness. The surface of the hide is currently a topography of petty horrors. On one side, it is slimy, a slick, cold, and gelatinous coating of lime and tannin that refuses to be wiped away. On the other side, it is starting to stiffen. It feels fibrous. It feels calcified. It feels indifferent to the passage of time. Spend 1,000 words on the specific resistance of the skin. When you press your thumb against it, the hide does not give like fabric. It negotiates. It holds the indentation for a second before slowly, bureaucratically, returning to its shape. The leather is cold. The leather is damp. The leather is stubborn. It feels like a frozen history of the animal's movements. You can feel the scars on the skin where the beast once brushed against a bramble, now preserved as a permanent record in the grain. The hide is a document. It is a logistical summary of a life, being slowly converted into a logistical summary of a commodity. Your fingers are now stained. The tannin has begun its audit of your own skin. You feel the identity erosion reaching your hands. You are becoming processed. You are becoming cured. You are becoming part of the inventory. The wood of the rack is just as sodden as the hide. It is an oak beam that has spent its entire career being dripped upon by acidic fluids. It is soft to the touch. It is pulpy. It is a structural element that has given up on being dry. The hide drips. The vat bubbles. The pole thuds. The night in the Tanners Quarter is not a time of rest. It is a time of slow chemical governance. The world is being dismantled and reassembled, one molecule of bark at a time. And you stand there, the witness to the stink, the witness to the weight, and the witness to the transformation. The air is sour. The liquid is dark. The leather is patient. We have escaped the administrative pungency of the tanneries, leaving the sour vats behind for a different kind of intensity. You are now entering the blacksmith's forge. It is midnight, and the heavy lifting of the day's labor has long since concluded, yet the room remains a logistical disaster of wasted thermal energy. The door to the forge is thick, charred pine, and as you step inside, you are met with the audacity of the lingering heat. This is not the welcoming warmth of a domestic fireplace. It is a structural heat. It is a heat that has been hammered into the very stones of the building. It is a heat that feels like an unauthorized occupant of the space, refusing to vacate just because the sun has gone down. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the petty flickering of the dying embers. Deep within the stone hearth, the charcoal is conducting a slow-motion audit of its remaining carbon. The glow is a deep, bruised orange, a color that serves as an unvetted report on the day's violence against iron. The light does not shine. It pulses. It is a rhythmic, administrative heartbeat of light that illuminates nothing but its own exhaustion. The light is dim. The light is heavy. The light is dying. Now, address the scent. The air in the forge is a masterpiece of industrial history. It is the smell of charred oak, a dry, alkaline scent that catches in the back of your throat. Underneath that, there is the smell of singed iron, a metallic, bloody aroma that suggests the earth itself has been wounded. The scent is sharp. The scent is dry. The scent is ancient. It is an olfactory inventory of every plowshare, every horseshoe, and every hinge that has passed through this room. The soot on the walls is not just dirt. It is a bureaucratic accumulation of 1,000 fires. It is a fine, velvet black dust that absorbs the tiny amount of light the embers provide. The heat is a weight. The heat is a memory. The heat is a ghost. You stand there, a walking political problem, in a room that is still vibrating with the memory of the hammer. Your identity is further dismantled by the temperature. You are no longer a person with a destination. You are a person whose only administrative task is to wait for the room to reach equilibrium with the night. You move toward the center of the room. There, anchored to a massive, half-buried oak stump, sits the anvil. It is a logistical miracle of immovable mass. You rest your hand near the iron, but you do not touch it yet. You are experiencing the logistics of the cold iron, meeting the residual heat of the room. There is a thermal boundary around the anvil, a layer of air where the iron's coldness is conducting a petty negotiation with the hearth's warmth. Now, place your palm on the pitted surface. The anvil is indifferent to the passage of time. It is a block of iron that has been beaten for decades, and yet it remains unchanged. Feel the specific roughness of the surface. It is not smooth. It is a topography of clerical errors, tiny nicks, scars, and depressions where a hammer missed its mark in the year 1310. Spend 1,500 words in your mind on the texture. It is a dry, cold. It is a heavy, cold. It is a structural, cold. The iron feels like it is pulling the very marrow from your bones. It is an administrative acquisition of your body's heat. The surface is dusty, covered in a microscopic layer of iron scale, thin, brittle flakes of oxidized metal that have been shed like skin. Listen. As the room cools, the anvil makes a sound. A single, rhythmic clink. It is the sound of the metal contracting. It is a sound of molecular reorganization. It is a sharp, lonely sound that cuts through the silence like a minor administrative report. The clink is sudden. The clink is clear. The clink is final. The anvil was here before the current blacksmith was born. The anvil will be here after the village is a ruin. It is a permanent record of gravity. It is a logistical anchor for the village. The iron is black. The iron is heavy. The iron is still. Finally, you look down at the floor. You move away from the permanent iron to the transient remains of the fire. You run a single finger through the pile of cold ash at the edge of the hearth. Let us discuss the sensory void of the dust. This is the ultimate logistical failure of the charcoal. It is matter that has been stripped of its utility, its heat, and its form. It is a gray, weightless powder that feels like nothingness between your fingertips. Contrast this with the heavy, immovable stone of the forge. The stone has mass. The ash has only history. The stone is cold. The ash is extinguished. Spend 1,000 words on the sensation. The ash is silky. The ash is porous. The ash is insubstantial. When you move your finger, the dust doesn't resist. It surrenders. It rises in a tiny grey cloud, a bureaucratic puff of spent energy, before settling back into its administrative grave. The ash is the color of the moon. The ash is the texture of a dream. The ash is the end of the ledger. You are now a person of grey. Your finger is stained with the residue of 100 oaks. Your lungs are filled with the dust of 1,000 fires. The identity erosion is complete. You are no longer an observer. You are a component of the forge's cooling cycle. The rule of 3 governs your departure. The embers go dark. The iron goes cold. The village goes silent. You pick up your lantern, the iron handle now feeling strangely similar to the anvil you just touched, and prepare to leave. The logistics of the heat have been filed away. The audit of the carbon is closed for the night. The room is dark. The room is still. The room is empty. You have transitioned from the industrial cold of the blacksmith's anvil to the biological heat of the bakery. It is now well past midnight, that specific administrative hour where the world is supposed to be dormant, yet inside this room, a logistical nightmare of slow-motion expansion is underway. Before you stands the trough. It is a massive, hollowed-out trunk of elm, a structural vessel designed to contain the unvetted report of the village's bread. Observe the dough. It is a thick, pale, and incredibly stubborn mass of rye and wheat. To the untrained eye, it is stationary, but you are the chronicler. You see the audacity of its movement. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the petty bubbles appearing on the surface. These bubbles are not accidental, they are micro-bureaucratic events. They are the visible evidence of the yeast, that invisible, unmanaged workforce, conducting its nocturnal audit of the sugars. A bubble forms. It is small. It is translucent. It is persistent. It stretches the glutinous membrane of the rye until the surface is a topographical map of tension. The dough is rising. The dough is stretching. The dough is waiting. The smell hits you next. It is not the springtime meadow lie of a modern kitchen. It is the scent of souring grain. It is a sharp, acidic, and profoundly damp aroma. It smells of fermentation in progress. It smells of the earth being digested by itself. Underneath the sourness is the smell of the damp wood of the trough, a mossy, ancient scent that has been administratively absorbed by the dough over decades of use. Spend 1,200 words in your mind on the way the dough sighs. As a bubble reaches its structural limit, it does not pop with a sound. It collapses with a microscopic release of carbon. It is a clerical error in the expansion. The dough is a heavy thing. The dough is a slow thing. The dough is a living thing. You are no longer a person with a voice. You are a witness to the logistics of the rise. You are a person watching a pale mountain grow by millimeters. Your identity is eroding into the yeasty mist of the room. You are a biological component of the breakfast department. Behind the trough sits the oven. It is a mountain of masonry, a logistical miracle of thermal storage, that currently sits in a state of administrative silence. The work of the great heat is done for now, but the oven is still conducting a slow-motion negotiation with the room. Reach out. Do not touch the interior. That would be a violation of safety protocols, but rest your hand on the outer bricks. The bricks are soot-stained. They are textured by a century of smoke and ash. Feel the specific roughness of the surface. It is a gritty, dry, and unforgiving texture. Each brick is a permanent record of 1,000 fires. The soot is not a layer. It is an administrative coating that has become part of the stone's geology. The stone is indifferent. The stone is heavy. The stone is silent. Spend 1,500 words on the way the stone feels indifferent to the morning's deadline. The village expects bread by dawn, but the oven does not care. It releases its heat with a bureaucratic lack of urgency. It is a dry heat. It is a radiating heat. It is a captured heat. The cooling embers inside the maw of the oven are grey ghosts. They provide no light, only a thermal report that the day's energy is nearly spent. You are standing next to a geological giant that is slowly, logistically, falling asleep. The bricks are dark. The bricks are warm. The bricks are patient. Now, look up. A single, weak beam of moonlight has managed to bypass the administrative barriers of the shuttered window. In that beam, you see it, a single mote of flour dust. Let us discuss the logistics of the suspension. This mote is a lost administrative file of the harvest. It is a microscopic fragment of wheat that has escaped the trough, escaped the oven, and escaped the lungs of the baker. It moves through the air with a bureaucratic lack of direction. It doesn't fall. It negotiates with the air currents. Watch its movement. It is a slow-motion drift. It is a weightless journey. It is a rhythmic descent. Now, consider the feeling of the flour on your own skin. It is everywhere. It has settled on your forearms like a silky, dry, and bureaucratically patient second skin. It is finer than the ash of the forge. It is softer than the vellum of the Scriptorium. It is a sensory void that fills the pores of your existence. The flour is white. The flour is soft. The flour is still. Spend 1,000 words on the contrast between the weightless dust and the immovable oven. One is a ghost, the other is a mountain. And yet, they are both parts of the same caloric ledger. They are both administrative necessities of the village. As you stand there, the identity erosion reaches its peak. You are no longer a person who thinks. You are a person who absorbs. You are a person coated in the dust of the field, standing in the heat of the mountain, watching the rise of the rye. The rule of 3 governs the bakery at 3 a.m. The yeast breathes. The stone cools. The dust waits. You take a step back. The floor is covered in a bureaucratic carpet of spilled grain and old soot. Your footsteps make no sound. The flour acts as a logistical silencer. The night is deep. The bread is rising. The world is asleep. You have left the yeasty warmth of the bakery, stepping back out into the 4 a.m. air, the specific administrative dead zone of the night. You are standing now at the center of the village green, before the central well. It is a circular stone lip, a logistical disaster of vertical water management, that serves as the village's primary department of hydration. Consider the audacity of this depth. The well is not merely a hole. It is a structural absence. It is a column of nothingness carved through the heart of the geology. As you lean over the moss-covered stones, you are audited by the deep dark. This is an unvetted report on the Earth's interior. A darkness so thick, so pressurized, and so bureaucratically absolute, that light itself seems to resign at the threshold. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the smell. It is the scent of cold moss. It is a green, damp, and slightly metallic aroma. Underneath that is the smell of wet limestone, a mineral breath that suggests the weight of the world's crust. It is a scent that is logistically stagnant. It smells of water that has been sitting in the dark, filing reports on the silence of the stones for 10,000 years. The moss is thick. The moss is slick. The moss is silent. The stones of the lip are worn smooth by a century of administrative friction, the sliding of buckets, the leaning of tired elbows, the dragging of heavy ropes. The stone is cold. The stone is damp. The stone is patient. You are no longer a person with a history. You are a person leaning into a void. Your identity is being pulled downward by the sheer, unmitigated gravity of the shaft. You are a biological witness to the logistics of the deep. Now, we must address the administrative core of this experience, the drip. The oak bucket sits on the stone ledge, dripping from its recent acquisition of water. A single drop of water is currently forming on the iron-bound rim of the bucket. It is a logistical miracle of surface tension. Spend 2,000 words in your mind on the logistics of the descent. The drop grows. It is a clear, heavy, and indecisive sphere. It clings to the wood with a petty persistence, resisting the pull of the earth. Then, the weight becomes a clerical necessity. The drop detaches. Watch the descent, or rather, listen to it, for the eye cannot follow it into the deep dark. It is a journey through a vacuum of stone. The drop is a small administrative file falling through the archives. Then, the sound. Tink. It is a hollow, administrative click as it hits the surface of the water far below. It is not a splash. It is a collision of liquid interests. The sound travels back up the stone shaft, echoing against the wet limestone, being processed by the geometry of the void until it reaches your ears as a ghostly, rhythmic report. The sound is lonely. The sound is patient. The sound is inevitable. Listen to the rule of 3 in the water's frequency. The first drip, a statement. The second drip, a confirmation. The third drip, a permanent record. The echo is the only authorized communication from the bottom of the world. It tells you that the water is still there. It tells you that the water is still deep. It tells you that the water is still waiting. The drip is a slow-motion audit of the well's capacity. It is a logistical report that requires no response. You stand there, paralyzed by the rhythm, your own pulse syncing with the hollow click of the descent. The shaft is dark. The shaft is cold. The shaft is infinite. You turn your attention to the windlass. The heavy hemp rope is coiled around the wooden drum like a calcified serpent. This is the logistical tether between the village and its survival. Reach out. Touch the rope. Experience the sensory friction. This is not the nylon cord of the modern world. This is raw, unrefined hemp. It is a structural fiber that has been soaked, dried, and dragged over stone until it has achieved a state of permanent agitation. Feel the specific roughness. It is a petty sensation of 1,000 tiny needles, the frayed ends of the plant fibers, biting into the skin of your palm. Spend 1,200 words on the way the hemp feels indifferent to the moisture of the night. It is hydrated, yet it remains dry and abrasive to the touch. Underneath your fingers, you feel the grit. This is the logistical residue of the earth. Tiny grains of stone dust and dried mud embedded in the twists of the rope. It is a gritty, administrative texture that reminds you of the labor required to move water from the void to the surface. The rope is heavy. The rope is rough. The rope is stubborn. As you grip the windlass, you feel the identity erosion finalize. You are no longer a person who wants. You are a person who hauls. You are the department of extraction. Your hands are becoming as textured as the hemp. Your skin is becoming as indifferent as the stone. The wood of the windlass is grey and splintered. It is an oak cylinder that has spent its life in a state of rot resistance negotiation. It is cold. It is damp. It is silent. The rule of 3 governs the well at 4:10 a.m. The rope holds. The stone waits. The water drips. You do not move. You do not speak. You simply stand at the edge of the architecture of the void, listening to the hollow click of the infinite drip. The logistics of the deep are complete. The audit of the earth is ongoing. The night is heavy. The water is dark. The world is gone. They are massive, structural survivors that have been administratively retasked from the forest to the cemetery. They do not merely support a roof, they endure. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the petty decay of the wood. The grain is not smooth, it is a topographical map of historic rainfall. The oak has been audited by the weather for 300 years. You see the deep, microscopic fissures where the moisture has conducted a slow-motion invasion. The grain is raised, silvered, and bureaucratically exhausted. It is an unvetted report on every storm, every frost, and every damp Tuesday in the history of the parish. The wood is grey. The wood is hard. The wood is ancient. Beneath the shelter of the gate, the air is stagnant. It is the smell of wet lichen, a sharp, clinging, green aroma that suggests a life form that has successfully negotiated its lease on the wood. Underneath that is the smell of ancient, cold dust, the pulverized remains of stone, timber, and time. It is a scent that feels archival. It is the smell of a closed file. The lichen is damp. The lichen is soft. The lichen is silent. You reach out and touch the beam. It feels hydrated, but stony. It is wood that has forgotten it was ever flexible. It has become a structural permanence. Your identity is further eroded by the sheer, unmoving weight of the gate. You are no longer a person with a destination. You are a person standing in the waiting room of history. You leave the shelter of the gate and move into the yard itself. Before you sits a single, leaning stone marker. It is a logistical disaster of vertical stability. Consider the logistics of the tilt. This stone, a slab of local gritstone, is no longer upright. It is negotiating with gravity. It leans at an angle of exactly 12 degrees, a clerical error caused by 2 centuries of soil subsidence and the slow, administrative movement of the earth. Spend 2,000 words in your mind on the physics of this lean. It is a weight in progress. It is a slow-motion fall that will take another century to complete. The stone is heavy. The stone is silent. The stone is administrative. Now, touch the surface. Experience the specific roughness. The stone is covered in a bureaucratic layer of crustose lichen and moss. The moss is a sensory cushion, a damp green velvet that hides the logistical details of the name carved beneath it. As you move your fingers, you feel the indentations of the letters. They are eroded data. The A has lost its crossbar. The 8 has become a 0. The stone is indifferent to the identity of the person it represents. It has archived the name so thoroughly that the name no longer exists. The texture is gritty. The texture is cold. The texture is indifferent. Listen to the silence of the stone. It doesn't vibrate. It doesn't hum. It simply occupies space. It is a permanent record of a biological life that has been administratively closed. You feel the identity erosion reaching your own name. In the presence of this indifferent slab, your own personnel file feels remarkably thin. The marker is old. The marker is leaning. The marker is patient. You stand still among the grass. The grass is wet. The grass is long. The grass is still. Now, consider the audacity of the fog. It has moved in from the river, conducting an unauthorized occupancy of the churchyard. It is not a cloud. It is a sensory void. It is a logistical barrier between you and the rest of the world. Spend 1,500 words on the sound of the mist. It is a hollow, bureaucratic sigh. As the air moves through the ancient yew trees, the fog filters the sound. It is a muffled report of the wind. The yew trees, those department heads of the grave, do not rustle. They groan. Their needles are thick with moisture, and as the wind passes, they release a sound that is low, rhythmic, and bureaucratically patient. The sound is soft. The sound is heavy. The sound is rhythmic. Feel the moisture on your skin. It is a cold, persistent film. It does not feel like water. It feels like atmospheric weight. It settles on your eyelashes. It coats your cloak. It is a sensory takeover that renders your physical boundaries irrelevant. You are becoming hydrated by the graveyard. You are being administratively absorbed by the mist. The mist is grey. The mist is thick. The mist is silent. Every blade of grass is a logistical unit of dampness. You watch a single drop of dew slide down a stalk. It moves with a bureaucratic lack of speed. It is a minor clerical movement in a world of total stasis. You are no longer a person who acts. You are a person who witnesses. You are the night watchman of the void. The rule of 3 governs the churchyard at 5 a.m. The stone stays. The mist moves. The world waits. The light is coming, but it is stuck in committee. It is a pale, grey, administrative suggestion on the horizon. Until it arrives, you are a permanent resident of the shadow. You are a walking political problem for the dawn. The grass is long. The stone is cold. The night is done. You have left the permanent rest of the churchyard, moving away from the stationary logistics of the grave toward the village's primary department of transit. You are standing now upon the apex of the bridge, a narrow, humpbacked stone structure that represents a logistical miracle of medieval engineering and a structural argument against the river's existence. Consider the audacity of this masonry. The bridge does not merely cross the water, it interrogates it. It is a series of massive limestone blocks, hand-carved and administratively placed, to defy the logistical nightmare of unmanaged drainage flowing beneath you. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the petty dampness of the stones. The stones are not dry. They are never dry. They possess a permanent, institutional humidity. The mist from the river has conducted a slow-motion audit of the limestone's porosity, filling every microscopic fissure with a cold, bureaucratic dampness. As you look down at the coping stones, you see the moss. The moss is an unvetted report on the river's history. It is a thick, sponge-like administrative layer that has been filing its findings on the humidity for decades. It is a deep, bruised green, the color of a closed file left in a damp basement. It is slick. It is soft. It is silent. The stone is cold. The stone is wet. The stone is heavy. Now, address the scent. It is the smell of cold, moving water. A metallic, expansive aroma that suggests the river has traveled through a dozen other administrative districts before reaching you. Underneath that is the smell of wet silt, the scent of the earth being logistically relocated. It is a heavy, mineral-rich odor. It is the smell of geology in motion. The scent is sharp. The scent is damp. The scent is ancient. You are no longer a person with a destination. You are a person standing on a humpbacked bureaucracy. Your identity is being thinned by the constant, rhythmic movement beneath your feet. You are a biological witness to the logistics of the flow. You move to the center of the span, leaning over the parapet to watch the water move around a single stone pylon. This is the Department of Resistance. Consider the logistics of the eddy. The water does not simply flow past the pylon. It negotiates with it. As the current hits the leading edge of the stone, it is forced into a logistical redirection. It swirls. It spirals. It considers its options. Spend 2,000 words in your mind on the sound of this interaction. It is a hollow, administrative gurgle. It is the sound of the river filing a formal grievance against the stone. Gluck, swirl, slap. Listen to the rhythmic, wet slap of the water against the pylon, a sound that is persistent, heavy, and bureaucratically necessary. The sound is a drone of the deep night. It is a low-frequency report that the drainage of the world is still in progress. The gurgle is not musical, it is mechanical. It is the sound of a liquid machine that never shuts down, never takes a break, and never completes its administrative task. The water flowed. The water swirled. The water waited. Watch the surface of the eddy. It is a topography of turbulence. There are tiny, petty whirlpools that form and dissolve with a bureaucratic lack of permanence. Each one is a minor clerical error in the river's momentum. The water is black. The water is cold. The water is unvetted. Your pulse begins to sync with the wet slap of the current. The rule of 3 governs the physics of the pylon. The water hits the input. The water turns the process. The water leaves the output. The river is a logistical miracle that requires no maintenance. It simply is. And you, standing above it, are an authorized observer of its eternal audit. You reach out. Your hand finds the cold, rusted iron railing that was administratively added to the bridge in a fit of safety-conscious governance. Experience the sensory decay. The iron is not a solid thing. It is a documented history of corrosion. Spend 1,500 words on the specific roughness of the rust flakes. As you run your thumb along the metal, you feel the petty irregularities, the pits, the scales, and the calcified layers of oxidized iron. The rust is a bureaucratic coating. It is the iron's way of resigning from its structural duties. The flakes are orange. The flakes are brittle. The flakes are indifferent to the humidity. When you apply pressure, a small shard of rust detaches and falls into the river, a minor administrative loss in the bridge's inventory. The metal is cold. The metal is rough. The metal is patient. Consider the bureaucratic patience of the corrosion. It does not hurry. It does not panic. It simply acquires the iron, one molecule at a time, until the railing is no longer a barrier but a record of its own demise. Your hand feels the logistics of the cold radiating from the metal. It is a sucking cold, a cold that wants to file a report on your body temperature. The iron is dark. The iron is rusted. The iron is still. You are now a person of the bridge. Your hand is stained with the orange clerical dust of the rust. Your ears are filled with the hollow gurgle of the eddy. Your identity has been administratively dissolved into the mist and the motion. The rule of 3 governs the bridge at 5:20 a.m. The stone resists. The water moves. The iron decays. You stand at the apex of the arch, a walking political problem in a world of constant, rhythmic flow. The logistics of the motion are ongoing. The audit of the river is eternal. The light is still an unconfirmed rumor on the horizon. The bridge is narrow. The water is deep. The night is long. You have transitioned from the dynamic logistics of constant motion at the bridge to the profound archival stillness of the manor library. It is the final hour before dawn, that precise administrative moment when the night is conducting its last, slow audit of silence. You are standing in a room that is a logistical disaster of manual data storage. Consider the audacity of this collection. The walls are lined from floor to ceiling with heavy, leather-bound volumes. This is not a library in the modern sense. It is a department of accumulated knowledge, a bureaucratic mountain range of thought. Each book is a permanent record, A hand-copied, painstakingly bound administrative file on everything from crop rotation to the proper anointing of kings. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the petty layer of dust. It is everywhere. It is a fine, grey film that has settled upon every surface, every spine, and every forgotten page. This dust is an unvetted report on the passage of decades, even centuries. It is composed of pulverized paper fibers, microscopic fragments of vellum, and the silent, administrative shedding of the very air itself. The dust is thick. The dust is soft. The dust is patient. As you run your finger along a leather spine, the dust lifts in a tiny, grey cloud, a minor clerical disturbance, in the otherwise total stasis. It is a fine powder that feels dry and inert against your skin. It tells a story of forgotten arguments, unread poems, and meticulously documented genealogies that no one living remembers. Now, address the scent. It is the smell of old glue, a dry, slightly animalistic aroma that suggests the slow decay of hide and bone. Underneath that is the smell of vellum, a faint, clean, and slightly acidic scent of dried skin. And permeating everything is the cold, stagnant air that has been trapped in this room for generations, filing its own administrative reports on the passage of time. The scent is dry. The scent is cold. The scent is archival. You are no longer a person with questions. You are a person surrounded by answers that no longer matter. Your identity is being archived by the sheer weight of information. You are a biological component in the department of static knowledge. You turn your gaze toward the massive stone fireplace. The fire, which once roared with industrial authority, is now engaged in the logistics of the fade. Focus on the very last glowing spark. It is a tiny, bruised orange pinprick in a field of grey ash. It is the final, administrative flicker of the day's heat. It clings to a microscopic fragment of charcoal with a petty persistence, defying the bureaucratic inevitability of its demise. Spend 2,000 words in your mind on the logistics of this fade. The glow does not shine, it recedes. It is a slow, rhythmic contraction of light. It is a pulse that is almost imperceptible, a microscopic, administrative pop, as the cooling wood fibers finally give up their last, stored energy. This sound is not a crackle, it is a whisper of thermal surrender. The sound is dying. The sound is quiet. The sound is final. The ash around the ember is a topographical map of extinction. It is a landscape of grey, weightless powder that has administratively replaced the wood. The stone of the hearth, once radiating with captured heat, is now cold, a heavy, indifferent presence that has completed its thermal audit. The ember shrinks. The ember darkens. The ember vanishes. The silence that follows is not an absence of sound. It is a confirmation of finality. It is the sound of a closed account. The rule of 3 governs the last ember. The heat recedes. The light fades. The silence claims. You are no longer a person observing a fire. You are a person observing an administrative closure. Your identity is further dissolved by the utter lack of kinetic energy in the room. You are a static observer in the department of stillness. You move toward the center of the room. There, anchoring the space, sits a massive, heavy oak table. It has sat in this room for 2 centuries, a logistical survivor that has witnessed generations of scholars, clerics, and bewildered squires. You rest your hand on its surface. Experience the sensory weight. This table does not merely exist. It occupies space with a profound, almost aggressive, gravitas. It is a thick slab of ancient oak, hand-planed and administratively maintained through decades of spills, scratches, and the dull thud of heavy books. Spend 1,500 words on the specific roughness of the wood grain. The grain is not smooth. It is a permanent record of the tree's life. The tiny, raised ridges where the annual rings have been revealed by countless cleanings. It is a fibrous topography that feels dry and unyielding against your palm. You feel the microscopic indentations where a quill once slipped, or a clumsy elbow left its mark. Small, clerical errors preserved in the timber. The oak is dark. The oak is heavy. The oak is silent. The wood feels indifferent to your touch. It has felt the touch of 100 hands, and yours is just another unvetted report to its vast internal archive. The bureaucratic patience of the timber is absolute. It will remain long after your own personnel file has been completely reduced to dust. The table is cold. The table is solid. The table is permanent. Your hand absorbs the logistics of the cold from the ancient wood. Your fingerprints are lost in the vast textured landscape of the grain. The identity erosion is now total. You are no longer a person who reads. You are a person who touches. You are a silent, unmoving component in the department of stillness. The rule of 3 governs the library at 5:40 a.m. The dust settles. The silence claims. The wood waits. The last ember has died. The moon is a thin, bureaucratic sliver in the distant, high window. You are a walking political problem for the coming dawn, but for now, you are simply a witness to the logistics of dust and silence. The books are still. The table is heavy. The night is deep. We have reached the administrative conclusion of our nocturnal audit. It is that precise, agonizingly slow moment where the night's ledger is being forcibly closed by the arrival of the first grey light. You are standing in the manor library, but the deep dark is no longer absolute. It is being interrogated by a weak, indecisive, and profoundly bureaucratic light. Consider the audacity of this sun. It does not burst into the room with warmth or vigor. It arrives like a minor clerical worker, starting a long shift. It is a thin, grey sliver of light that manages to bypass the administrative barriers of the leaded glass windows. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the petty movement of this light as it begins to reveal the dust. The light is slow. The light is weak. The light is bureaucratic. As the photon count increases by the smallest of margins, the logistics of the dust change. The fine, grey film you touched moments ago is no longer an invisible texture. It is now a visible, archival layer. The light illuminates the motes floating in the stagnant air, each one a lost administrative file of the 14th century, dancing in a rhythmic, low-frequency descent. The light reveals the petty decay of the vellum. It highlights the microscopic cracks in the leather bindings. It documents the structural exhaustion of the oak table. This is not a glorious morning. It is a visual audit of everything the night managed to hide. The dust motes move with a bureaucratic lack of urgency. They drift. They swirl. They settle. The light is cold. The light is grey. The light is indifferent. Spend 1,800 words in your mind on the way the light hits the floorboards. It shows the logistical history of the room, the worn path where generations of feet have conducted their nocturnal business. The light doesn't bring hope, it brings inventory. It brings the realization that the day is coming to retask your senses. Your identity is caught in the crossfire of the transition. You are no longer a creature of the dark, but you are not yet a creature of the day. You are a transitional record, a walking political problem, waiting for the sun to decide your status. The dust dances. The light grows. The night resigns. Now, the structural realignment begins. The 14th century is losing its administrative grip on your reality. The stone walls of the manor, those heavy, limestone monuments to permanence, are becoming translucent. They are no longer geological certainties. They are fading files. The smell of old vellum and stagnant, archival air is being evicted by a more familiar scent. It is the faint, subtle aroma of your own room, the scent of clean laundry, the ghost of a candle, and the curated comfort of the 21st century. Consider the logistics of the return. This is not a sudden jump. It is a soft transition. It is a heavy transition. It is an administrative necessity. Your heavy wool cloak, the 40-pound logistical burden that absorbed the mist of the village, the soot of the forge, and the dampness of the well, is undergoing a material audit. It is softening. It is thinning. It is transitioning back into your modern duvet. Feel the sensory weight shift. The rough, abrasive texture of the wool is being replaced by the standardized luxury of your bedding. The fibers are smooth. The fibers are light. The fibers are yours. The stone floor beneath your feet is dissolving. The cold, packed earth and grit are being administratively replaced by the familiar support of your mattress. The logistics of the support are changing. You are no longer standing. You are being archived into a horizontal state. The pressure against your shoulder blades is returning to its rightful department. The transition is slow. The transition is quiet. The transition is absolute. The sounds of the medieval world, the hollow gurgle of the bridge, the rhythmic thud of the tannery, and the bureaucratic sigh of the churchyard are being filtered out. They are being moved to the long-term storage of your memory. They are being replaced by the infinite silence of your bedroom. The room is dark. The room is still. The room is home. You are back. You have successfully navigated the logistical nightmare of history and returned to the administrative safety of your own bed. The file on the 14th century is closed. The ledger of the village is balanced. The audit of the night is complete. Consider the logistics of the silence. This is not an empty silence. It is a saturated silence. It is the silence of a successful time management project. Spend a moment, a long, agonizingly slow moment, with the unvetted report of your own breathing. The breath is slow. The breath is deep. The breath is rhythmic. Listen to the inhale, the acquisition of oxygen. Listen to the exhale, the disposal of the day. Your pulse has returned to its default setting. You are no longer a department head or a walking problem. You are a sensory void. You are a biological success. The feeling of total irrelevance is a luxurious administrative state. You have no more responsibilities. You have no more tasks. You have no more clerical duties. The world outside your window can continue its unmanaged drainage without your supervision. The silence is thick. The silence is heavy. The silence is yours. Feel the way your body has been administratively cleared of tension. Your toes are no longer cold. Your hands are no longer stained with ink or rust. You are a blank page in the department of sleep. The rule of 3 governs this final state. The body rests. The mind drifts. The world waits. You are drifting now, moving toward the infinite sleep. The midnight chronicler has completed the audit. The sensory bridge has been dismantled. The logistics of the soul have been finalized. The darkness is a soft blanket. The silence is a heavy stone. The sleep is a deep well. There are no more reports to file. There are no more vats to stir. There are no more stones to count. You are irrelevant. You are safe. You are asleep. The chronicler has finished. The silence is yours.